This is my latest fun project. I've shared a bit about this in other videos, but today I'm going to do a full run through of what I'm working on. This is a early 90s Kubota G1800. Now I've got a Honda push mower. It is awesome, cranks up in one start. And I really don't have enough grass to justify having something like this. However, it is diesel, and that is much preferred to me. And it's a fun project. So these things were made in the 90s, called lawn tractors. And there doesn't seem to be that many of them out there because I've been browsing, looking for miscellaneous parts, seeing what the value is, and it's kind of all over the place. If you're gonna go look right now to find a diesel lawnmower that's not massive, you're gonna find the zero turn models, which apparently these were the predecessors to zero turns. And once zero turns came out, this style kind of became obsolete, which is understandable. They'll use the same engines though, which is this very common 3-cylinder. Now this one I purchased for $350. It was not running when I got it. Had a bunch of things bypassed and rewired, so I'm still sorting some of that out. But I did the basics, the minimal that I could in order to get it running. And once I got it running, I knew the engine was solid. I went ahead and started tackling some other things. Now this one has 2,932 hours on it, which is quite a bit. Body's pretty solid. The frame's real solid, no issues there. I'm going through and figuring out, made a parts list, and just got a pile of parts in. That's one of the issues. I'm going to have to get that cleaned up, I think. Steering wheel needs bushings, but those came in. There's some of these electrical things down here that are going to be problematic, but so far everything seems to be working well enough. Now today I'm going to go through, I'm going to change out the hydraulic fluid and filter, which is right underneath there. I've got a new battery in there, but right now it'll be thinking about sliding into that crank there, the pulleys. But that's why I bought new parts to secure the battery. When I first got this, I went through, found out that one of the glow plugs was not working. The fuel pump, electric fuel pump, that was not working. This is a cheapie I bought. Figured I'd throw 20 bucks at it, make sure that was in fact the issue, before I go spend like $190 on a factory Kubota, which I may do in the future. So right now, I've got the glow plug circuit working. As you saw at the beginning of the video, I can turn that key, make the glow plugs heat up, and then I have to come over here and basically trigger this guy with a basically a jump from the battery to right there, and it'll run the starter, crank it right up. Now I'm going to get in here and adjust some things, make it to where key on, as it's supposed to, jumps to there, and we'll get this thing going. I've got a relay, don't even know what this does yet, but it's got a bunch of parts. I've got to get that sorted and figured out, but I'm not there just yet. Also, I've got this pesky guy, broken alternator bracket, but I've got a new one of those. I've also got a new V-belt for it. I've also got the new belts that go into that pulley I was mentioning earlier. And quite a few other things. A bunch of miscellaneous hardware. And all this stuff's fairly cheap. I mean, this stuff anyways. It's a valve cover gasket. I did go through and adjust the valves, and now she's purring. She's got a little shake, a little bit of wobble. I don't know if that's normal. I don't know if it's these engine mounts or rubber bushings. I forget what they call them, but maybe that can be changed later. So I'm going to dive into it, knock out some of these things. I went ahead and did an oil change already. Put on a new oil filter, got some AMS oil in there as I prefer. Now I'm going to work towards the rear. Going to have to elevate this seams. I'm going to get this old fluid out of here, replace it, and I'll report back. Changing the hydraulic fluid, pretty straightforward. You're going to use a 22 millimeter socket. This guy out. Get it drained. I rolled mine up onto blocks just to clear my tall oil pan. This red hydraulic fluid came out of there. That means I have no idea what someone else put in there. And this is cheap for preventive maintenance for having problems in the future. This is what's recommended, so that's what's going in there. I don't think it's red at all. I'm going to change the filter, and hopefully whatever was in there didn't do any damage, or at least it was the correct fluid or a compatible fluid. But this is why you just go through and get everything right. Once you know the engine's running and the platform's good, get it all right. This Kubota stuff, it's a little more expensive, but it lasts a long time, just like all the other parts on here. And then just like a car oil filter, that guy comes off, clean the surface, replace, and it takes over a gallon. I just added 1 gallon. I'm going to check the level and add some more. Next up is the alternator bracket. It's that guy right there. There's your part number. Alternator, dynamo. It is still working. Went ahead and got a bolt too, just in case. You can see where a repair was made. And while I could spend a bunch of time trying to prep and weld that, I think it looks like a real simple 10 millimeter, and get that thing out of there. I'm also replacing the belt, so I'm going to take the belt off first, or cut that one, and so I can have a little more access. The battery tray. This mower did not come with this battery securing setup, so you got 2 of these guys. You've got the flange nuts, and then you've got the bracket that goes across. Here are the part numbers. As you're doing this, be really careful that you don't bridge the negative and the positive with this bracket as you lay it across, so be real careful. And then this tightens down with a 10 millimeter socket. Looks like I may have to remove it when I go to do these belts, but I don't think I'm going to tackle that today. Valve cover gasket. I already adjusted the valves in this the other day, reused the gasket, the seal. 10 millimeter. Take these 3 off. There are small copper washers on there. You can reuse those. And this is the part number for the actual seal. So once you get these off, it's easier to remove those by lifting this up and sliding them off. I'm going to turn the camera off and tackle that. Then wipe off with the rag the edge, the seal around there as best you can. Don't get contaminants inside. Wipe out a little lip around there. Add your O-ring, the seal, and then put it back on, and don't over tighten. Tackling each of these things one at a time. Went ahead and ordered an air filter. Didn't even look at the existing one, and I still haven't looked at it, but let's see if I can do this one-handed without causing some sparks. It's looking pretty rough. Well, there we go. That's cheap insurance. Hopefully it's the right fit. It appears that it is. We're going to slap this back in there real easy. Just slides into there and is secured by this guy. Well, it looks like this video is going to have a part 2, which is just fine by me. So I left the original belt, or the belt that came with it. The reason is that that belt's got to come around this fan. It's also got to go around that what's running, I guess, the PTO to the rear, the transmission, which I think means I have to get underneath here and disconnect the drive shaft, essentially. So I want to be able to move this thing around right now, so I'm going to get a plan for that, and I am going to do it, but right now I'm leaving it. So air filter, battery brackets, valve cover, gasket, all that's done. Oil change, hydrostatic transmission, oil and filter, bracket for the alternator. Got that adjusted snug now. It had quite a bit of slop in it before. And I have this pesky wiggling here. So I'm gonna get down here, and I've already gotten that bolt out, which that bolt is supposed to secure it. Someone ran it in backwards, so I'm gonna have to tap that. So I'm trying to take the steering wheel out. I've got to get under there. There is a circlip snap ring. So I'm going to go borrow that from a neighbor, pull it out, and see if I can replace these 2 bushings and the steering column and sort out the slop. It's really annoying, so we're going to try to get that sorted. Now, that said, part of the problem is, for sure, let me get a better angle. Part of the problem is definitely that's on its last legs. So, not sure how to make that right and pretty, but I'm going to get there eventually. All right, well, I've got to ride this thing around, give it a little test run. I'm going to keep piddling with it. And next time, I'll show you some of the other things I get into, which will be the 2 PTO belts up front. And probably show you a little bit of these bushings. And a few of the other things that I'm going to be getting into. I will be replacing the seat with something more appropriate and not torn, and seeing what else I can tackle. Then on to cosmetics. Thanks for watching.